Welcome to another broadcast of the Competitive Edge. In the event that you're joining us for the first time, I want to welcome our viewers from across the world because we are currently broadcasting on multiple social media platforms. I want to welcome you with open arms to be a part of this program. Along with that, today we're going to be dropping a lot of gems. We have, a lot of dynamic personality in the studio today to contribute to our topic, the face of money. So I want you to call a friend and tell a friend that the competitive edge is on. And today we have a hot topic that we're going to be discussing. Today in the studio with me to support in this conversation is Frank, Clement Frank. Clement Frank, he is an economist by profession, and he's a John Maxwell specialist. We also have Shivani Sunarang, and Shivani is a project management practitioner. We have Peter Scott, and Peter Scott, he is the brain behind Legacy Chronicle initiative, and he's the guy that talks a lot about the importance of the master plan. He is the mastermind behind the master plan. And we also have Paul Whitehouse, and Paul Whitehouse, he is an innovative personality, but he is the person that you want to be your best friend. Why? Because Paul is the guy that really helps you to understand financial instruments and access money, capital to grow and scale your business. So, this is definitely the kind of person that you want to be your best friend. With that being said, for those who again might be joining me for the first time and don't know who I am, well, I wear many hats. My name is Gary Thompson, and the hat that I like to talk about a lot is that I'm the author of several books, and Master the Sales Communication Process is one of my most recent books. And you can go to thebestsellerportal.org to get a copy of those books. When you go to the bestsellerportal.org, that is shown on the screen, you can tap on products, and on your left, you will have a drop down, and
Morning.
all you need to do is to press on ebooks, and then you will be exposed to about 11 volumes of the Master the Sales Communication Process. So do go there to get copies of that book. With that being said, today we are looking at the face of money. But just before we get into today's topic, as usual, I'm going to ask all of my panelists to give a short introduction of themselves so the public can hear from you who you are. And I'm going to start with Frank. You're on mute, Frank. You're mute.
Hi, good morning. I'm Clement Frank by name and nature. And I'm basically a teacher, lecturer, mentorship personnel. And in all, I am a trained John Maxwell leadership personnel. Good being here, and I hope that this program will make you more financially aware, and so that what earnings you have, you'll be able to grow and just become better in whatever business you are. And that's what we're all here for, to assist you. Thank you.
All right, thanks for that share. And Frank, Shivani.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. Always wonderful to be here and speaking with everyone. I learned so much from this conversation and meeting everyone. Who am I? Project management all the way. Yes, we are speaking about money, but it is a process. You need to, it's a life cycle in order to acquire the money. And how do you get it? You need to understand how to get it. So it's all a project in itself. So project management can solve any challenge that you have. That's what I believe, and that's what we're here for. Project management. Cheers.
All right, thanks for that share, Shivani. I'll now come to Peter Scott. Peter, all to you.
Yeah. So I'm appreciative to be in the company of all these great people, and it's the first time in history that the reality of human existence being where humans are in a place where they can join the species of those who can become extinct so easily. For the first time in history, um, people are feeling the reality that the human species can easily become extinct. And because of that, what we do find is there's a sense of global hopelessness that you can actually sense it in the atmosphere. People are losing human beings as a whole, and usually it will be the poorest of the poor who feels like this, but it is now it's like a phenomenon, and human significance has become so at all-time low point. So the Human Growth Program is designed to empower individuals to look in the mirror and really to see themselves as valuable, which we are. And Shivani said a while ago about process. Everything takes a process, and the process that we can take charge of is when we plan, when we are intentional about our outcomes, and we have what we call a master plan. So we encourage individual in my world, we encourage everybody have a plan and keep working your plan.
All right, thanks for that share, Peter. Uh, Paul, all to you.
Good morning, everybody. Happy to be here with all my friends. And my name is Paul Whitehouse, one of two owners of Patriot Business Finance Consultants. And what we help businesses do is obtain the capital to grow, to start businesses and to grow businesses. Equipment financing, real estate financing, cash flow programs. Our goal is to help you get the least expensive money first under the best conditions with the best deal structure. Thank you.
All right, thanks for that share, Paul. I want to begin by saying that there's a normal saying where it's well established that there's two sides to a coin, but I believe that there's four sides to money, and I will explain that as I attempt to put a face to money. I believe that one, money comes in so many different forms. You have debt and equity and credit and creative financing, and you have hard money lending. And to me, that is one face. And you need to understand this. And why do you need to understand it? Because many persons, particularly so in business, they struggle to access the much needed capital to grow and scale in their business. And that happens largely because understanding financial tools and instruments is not common as it should be. So that's one phase. The second part of it is where we talk about once you now understand, you should be able to access, all right? And the ability to access capital is something that you should understand because if you're not understanding and seeing ways to access, you can know a lot about finance but not be able to access. And that for me represents another aspect of money. But I'm going to come to the third and the fourth, which I believe are very significant because you may be able to understand money, you may be able to access capital, but it's equally important to be able to have a clear mental picture of smart ways to leverage the capital. Because when you're ill aware or unaware of the best practices behind accessing and leveraging money, it becomes a liability. And when it becomes a liability, you now feel as though you have that noose around your neck. So as we look at the face of money, in my perspective, it is absolutely necessary for you to understand the entire ecosystem. So we're looking at a term, and that is having the ability to leverage capital. The fourth element of it that I will talk about briefly is the concept that we talk about capital mitigation, how to mitigate money. This is a very deep subject matter because the ability to mitigate money, mitigate capital, means that you have better control over the cost that you're paying for capital. You have better control over the term of the capital. You have better control over how you position yourself to cash flow optimize. Yes, I know that this might be, a little deep how I started off, but as once time permits, as I go into today's program, I will do my best to break down some of the complexity that I may or may not have expressed just now. But the question I want to throw out to the team is how to be successful with money. And of course, you can share your thoughts on what the face of money truly represents. And I open it up to anyone to go first.
Ladies first. Oh, sorry,
I
Frank.
know
I'm sorry,
Frank was going to speak. Frank was going to speak.
Frank, okay.
Yeah. I think I should allow Frank to speak first.
Right.
Frank, you're mute.
She's here for all of us, okay? So you don't try to just take her by yourself.
So I allow you to speak first. Frank?
Okay.
I like the setup. It was Dave Ramsey who said that you either learn to manage money or the lack of that skill will manage you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We have in our world today a housing market situation, inflation, recession talk. And one of the things that is on people's mind a lot is money. We are now into a new year. And this new year is the ideal time to take an honest look at our financial habits and change course if necessary. You see, money is also one of the most important personal leadership skills we can develop because it affects so many of our assets, of our areas in our lives. Whether you talk about paying child support, this is practical. You talk about children's education, you talk about building a new house, buying a new car. Money affects our lives, and for some people it affects different than others. In leadership, money is a vital skill, both for the business and the family. And in this current culture, what seems to happen is that we have fallen prey to a herd mentality, which isn't leading anywhere good. And there are a few statistics that I want to consider that was recent in the news. According to CNBC's story in January, they said that 78% of US workers live paycheck to paycheck. And I'm sure that's not just for the US, but it's for the majority of the world. ABC recently cited a survey by the Federal Reserve that declares 40% of Americans could not cover a $400 crisis without borrowing money. And The same CNBC says that when they collected data from the Insured Retirement Institute, it showed that 45% of baby boomers have zero retirement savings. And when asked what they would do when they run out of money, these retirees said that they would live on their Social Security, go back to work, or ask their children for money. And in addition to these studies, when we have fights about money, it is one of the top 3 reasons for divorce. So we see that the divorce rate, money is responsible for more than 30% of divorces. Our habits with money play a large role in our mental and physical health, in our marriages, even in our children's future.
Wow.
So decisions about money can permanently rupture relationships with friends or families. Now, all of those things affect our ability to lead throughout our lives with our greatest impact. In high visibility leadership positions, mishandling money can have dire consequences, like losing your job or wrecking your credibility for good. And if you get into think Enron, Kenneth Lee, the CEO of Enron, is now known as one of the worst CEO in American history. He leaves behind a legacy of shame, mismanagement, and dishonesty. And that's according to the Bloomberg News. But then some people say, but my income is good. You see, high income is not the same as being financially secure. A simple Google research reveals countless celebrities that have extremely high incomes yet manage to blow through millions and still end up in unsurmountable debts. Mike Tyson, Michael Jackson, Johnny Depp, Nicolas Cage. That's just a few familiar names you'll find.
Yeah.
In his meticulous studies of real millionaire habits, the author and Professor Tom Sandy calls the high income, high consumption lifestyle. My lectures at UE, I call it an ostentatious lifestyle. It's just a big word for saying I'm living large. I want a Cadillac, I want the biggest castle or mansion, and I want to live like how the neighbor lived. Right? The thing about that, however, is that creates what I always say, the herd mentality. Everybody doing it, so I got to do it. But everybody's lifestyle is not the same as yours, and then you think about it, your lifestyle has got to be for your circumstances. So it's situational. So a great question to ponder if your spending habits were public. What story would it tell? And so what can you do? The first thing is that you should never be ashamed of not knowing how to handle it. Because it's not a skill that we are born with. It's a skill that everyone can and they should do. This is something that we desperately need to include in basic education in our school system. Schools don't teach you that. Many people think that they need to learn complex investing strategies, but that is like trying to build the lunar module without first considering how you would even get to the moon. And in reality, most people just
Right.
most people just
Right.
need to do a monthly budget, a simple monthly budget, live on less than they make, and save money for emergencies and retirement. Besides the probability of you developing investing mastery as a side hustle, is extremely unlikely. Most research supports the idea that even most professionals, investors cannot beat the S&P 500. In fact, according to Investopedia, 63% of Americans are financially illiterate and cannot pass a basic financial literacy test without some basic education and plan, it's unlikely that you will ever make progress in your finances. I will allow the others to speak on this, and then I will go to some actions to take that can assist.
Yeah.
Great points, Frank. Shivani, go ahead.
So Frank, you said so many things that made me think, right? From a leadership point, from a project management point. Now, something you said there that just opened up my mind was the role of the role of leader in all of this. So you may be in a leadership position and you may be able to do X. But if you don't understand the importance of money and cash flow, you will lead your organization to the ground. You'll lead down, you will lead up, right? So to me, I've always seen the important, and that this is why probably we may say that one of the key skills that a leader must develop is financial skills, and sometimes you may see the CEOs of organizations having the financial skills and understanding, accounting and finance. But even if you don't, and some, you also said you don't need all these big investment strategies and understanding. You need to understand money. You need to understand money, right? And I have seen certain organizations when they do not, the person on top or your team, when you do not know about money and the value of money and how to spend the money and with your people, you're not going to have you and you're not going to scale up, as we see. You're not going to scale up. So to me, I've always said, this conversation is the faces of money, and we tie it a lot into projects and to leadership. It is one of the most important skills to develop as a leader,
Yes, it is.
because you could be really good, as you say, master planning, like what Peter will say, and myself in project management, and you understand projects, but you have no money. What master plan you could have? What project you could possibly have? So you have to know how to get your money, how to acquire the money, how to grow the money, how to scale up the money. So to me, that's a big part of this conversation, how to really grow and how to really scale up the money. So if the leader does not understand these skills, I mean, I'm hearing you, Peter, and sorry, Frank, I'm hearing
Frank.
what you're saying, and I'm just my mind. I could give you about 3 organizations that I think need to do some courses. They're leaders. They need to understand how to do this thing, because they're not leveling up, they're leveling down. I invented a word, that is Paul's word, he invents a lot of words. So level down, you're leveling up. And it's so
Okay.
easy, I think this is so easy to do, it's just so easy.
And I'm glad you raised that about the organizations. It's not surprising that it's not just the 3 that you know, but there's so many others.
Yeah.
All right. I only use Enron because it's internationally known. But you think about it, if a leader doesn't know or have the skills of financial, who on the team has that skill that you can utilize? Because as a leader, you don't know everything, but you must have some people within the team of core values who know the ins and outs of finances, who know how to manage money. And once you have that person in your team, you pull them close. You don't
So
get
that's
jealous of them.
exactly,
You don't get jealous.
that's what project management will teach
It's
us.
about
You need to have your team and you need to see who will be able to grow it. All of us can't know the same thing, but everybody needs to piggyback on everybody to grow. Um, that's management 101 or leadership 101.
yes, and the thing about it is
And
that sometimes the team is the one
Yeah.
is what you need to look at. But if you want to be selfish, you find yourself in this kind of position.
Yes.
Great. Great points. I want to throw the question now directly to the group, and I want Paul to take the first step to answer this. Now, one of the things that we have grown up hearing is that debt is bad. And Frank, you start by calling, Dave Ramsey, and I do believe that he's perhaps the goddess. And speaking along those lines, stay away from debt. But in the financial world, we have seen what wealthy people have done. They have taken debt and equity and credit and all different types of finance to position themselves to build wealth. Is there any truth to the concept of staying away from debt? I'm going to give my short view and then I'm going to open up to Paul. I do believe that if you don't understand debt and money management, yes, you should stay away from debt. But I do believe that once you understand debt, and that is how to take and leverage debt into positive cash flowing uh, instruments, how to take credit and leverage credit, into as level it up, as Shivani was saying. I think once you understand the ecosystem around this, my view is that you want to go at it with everything that you got because history has shown that the wealthiest of the wealthiest, they are always in debt. They are always leveraging debt. So for me, it comes back to what I said earlier. It's not enough to understand financial instruments. It's not enough to understand how to access. It's equally important to understand how to leverage and how to mitigate. That's a deep subject. I wouldn't get into it today, but I'll give the audience, my team, a chance to respond. Paul, what is your thoughts on debt? Should we stay away from debt or should we go into debt once we know what we're doing?
Exactly what you just said. And number two, go into debt once you know what you're doing. There's really no other way to, well, you can, get a job. That's one way to earn money. But if you're going into business, I don't think there is another way unless you have all of your own money. If you have whatever you need, which might be a smaller amount, or it might be $40 million. If you have all the money to do what your project entails, you don't need debt. But if you do not, then you do need debt. And debt is a tool. You know what you commented on, Gary? People smarter than me came up with that a long time ago, and people equally as smart as you came up with that. So it's nothing new. This is not new information. Factory behind me, not the real factory, the virtual background, but a 9-ton per hour fiber processing factory. You go into debt, you take debt and equity, $39 million to build a 9-ton per hour processing factory. What does that result in? Results in, at the end of year 5 at 100% production capacity, a $62.4 million a year business, which a person cannot own unless they're willing to take on debt and risk. So now we're hitting the word risk. There's risk with debt if you screw it up. So don't screw it up. I don't mean to simplify it, but it is a tool. We all believe that it's a tool. A hammer's a tool. Takes you a little practice to get good at it. When you first pick up a hammer, you're not hitting the nail square on the head, but you get there quickly. Okay. Debt is the same way. It's simply a tool. Use it wisely, use it well, and it can result in great things. If you're afraid of it and you never want to touch it, then you will get no massive benefit.
Great point. And I do agree. Money is a tool, and you have a choice. You can use it as a liability, or you can leverage it as an asset. And it takes information. All right, you need to have, and Shivani would have pointed out some of this. Perhaps you need to get into a crash course on how to manage debt, how to leverage debt, how to mitigate debt, and to position yourself and to build wealth. For the last half an hour of the program, we're going to spend some time perhaps looking at some of those strategies that perhaps people can use in terms of debt leverage. But just before we move to that part, there's some of the solutions. And I know Frank preempted me when he said he's going to give some of that. So we're going to open up to those solutions just now. I want to turn to Peter to just get Peter's thoughts on what all of this means to him in terms of master planning. The way that I see it, Peter, having a master plan is what gives you the insight that you would need to understand where you're at, where you want to go, and how to get there. But let me get your perspective on this, Peter.
Yeah, and I think what I plan to say will just push the solution, because there's so much. I like the new guy. I really like the new guy. The new guy just brought some rich. It can go
Well,
so
Frank,
many ways. You could go
yeah, Frank,
so many ways. You just
yeah,
you know, but what it boils down to. So Frank, it's a pleasure having you here with us this morning. Because what it boils down to, and it's something that I started teaching my children. I started teaching my children financial literacy. And the problems that the world is encountering right now is because people are illiterate. People are illiterate as far as financing is concerned. And I didn't, I didn't understand this until a few years. So what you do find is that people who are, and Frank mentioned a key point, that high income and people who are in leadership. Why is the world in the state that it is? Because you have people who in high leadership screw up entire nations. And I don't want to go there. I don't want to talk about what they're doing into the US economy right now. But illiteracy, and I think I'll just stop it right there because that's the issue. People just don't know what money is. And if you don't know what money is, and then the institutions that are entrusted with people's lives are not teaching it, and that is by design, this is going to perpetuate. So that's where I think, Gary, the first solution is, and I think we can, begin to move into that direction now. People needs to know what money is, and as you mentioned, even debt. Debt is, if you know how to use debt, as you mentioned. But the first
mhm,
solution, is people has to know what it is, and if you don't know what it is, you're bound to screw it up.
yeah. Great points, Peter. All right, let me just lay the foundation here, and then we're going to come into some of the solution. I'm going to go to some facts. United States of America, the population has a 2022 stands at about 332.4 million. That's a very large population size. But what data is showing is that 70% of American population is in credit card debt. All right. And over 33% of that 70% carries between 3 to 4 credit cards. Now, again, research is showing that the Americans, this number that I've just mentioned, they are in debt above 164 billion US dollars. So I'm saying all of this to add justification to the points that we are making here, that many persons, they get access to capital, but then they leverage that capital as a liability instead of leveraging the capital as an asset. And that has everything to do with education. Now, one of the things that we talk about a lot, solution I'm going to be tabling now, if you're going to be taking out credit card debt, and credit card is one equation of access to capital, you need to take the time to understand things like payment history and how it affects your credit score. You need to take the time to understand utilization ratio and how it affects your FICO score. You need to take time to understand the length of credit history and how it affects you. You need to take time to understand mix of accounts and new accounts and how all of this affects you. Because in the absence of understanding these management tools of credit cards, you're going to have tremendous challenges in terms of your ability to mitigate it. The same principle applies to even debt instruments. There may be different tools, different systems for you to understand, but the important thing is to understand it. Now, let me give what I consider to be a practical way of leveraging capital. In the developed world, there's concepts that we call trade lines. And in terms of trade line, you have vendor credit and you have store credit, and you also have cash credit. That's when you now get the credit cards. But this is my advice, and I would say this to a lot of rising stars in business. If you have a community that you can predict has specific recurring needs, you can become a supplier of those recurring needs. I mean, you might have friends, and at the end of the month, they have to restock their pantries. Now, guess what? Because you now have access to store or vendor credit, the possibility exists that you can now access this line of credit, make the purchase, deliver the goods, and you have cash in your hand because the recurring expense that your community may have is cash expenses in most cases. So several things happen here. You have a line of credit, you have 30, 60, or 90 days to settle that debt. And along with this, you now have access to what we call the cash credit, because the recurring debt that your community is paying, they pay cash on a monthly basis. So here is where you're now generating some cash. All right. And the smart thing to do, one, you could offset the cost and take out the profit, or you can leverage that cash that you have just earned because you have 30, 60, or 90 days to settle that debt. You can leverage it now into smart income producing assets. That for me is leveraging capital in the smart way. And of course, there need to be so much of schooling on this and education on this to really help people to understand that there's more to just understanding that money exists. You need to understand how to leverage money so it becomes an asset to you that is giving you yourself positive recurring income. All right. Quick synopsis here again is that I would say to rising stars in business who are going into business but they may need small capital and don't have all the pre-qualification. I said, this is another strategy, another hack that you can use. Because here is where you're getting access to interest-free capital, interest-free within the window, either 30, 60, or 90 days. You don't have any APR to pay on this. And it gives you leverage. So you can start a business model that is uniquely aligned to that line of credit that you're going to be getting, either from the store or from the vendor. All right. And that in itself is a practical solution that you can use to create residual income. And here the beauty about this, you can be right at your workplace, making friends. You could be at your sports clubs with friends, knowing all of their recurring needs, and you're positioning yourself to be the supplier. So I'm just giving one solution. This is one way in which we can think about money instead of thinking that, just accessing money and using it as a liability. Now, let me say this. I'm not going to be the one to tell you don't buy your Mercedes Benz. I'm not going to be the one to tell you don't buy your Infinity, but I'm going to be the one to say to you, before you create one liability, ensure that you have about 5 income producing assets before you go create that one liability. So you have 2 sides of the coin there. And that's just my take on it. Frank, I know that you have a number of solutions tabled or lined up. So I would love to start with you on some of the additional solutions that people can take to start positioning themselves to win with money.
Thank you. There are some simple steps that we can use or take action immediately. And one is to commit to educating yourself on financial basics immediately. You may not be able to take a class, but read a book. But you need to start right now and don't wait. The best resource I have found is the 9-week financial peace university class, and it's now offered online for about $130. It might be the most important investment you can make. I have no financial relationship with this class, so I can't really tell you. But what I'll do is share the link later in the group so that you can probably click on that and see what courses are offered in financial literacy. The second is to do a monthly budget. I'm always saying to people, plan, and do a budget. It's very difficult to make any financial headway without knowing what is coming in and what is going out every month. Especially if you're married, you do this with your partner. It takes some time to get on the same page, but you cannot make real progress without being united. Have an emergency fund. An emergency fund is a fund where you can dip it in case you have to have some health. If you have some health crisis, if you have job crisis, if you have something that is of an emergency matter. Without an emergency fund, you're just one crisis away from your financial breaking point. The thing about this is that we got to realize that emergencies happen to everyone. The last thing you need is an emergency, is more debt and financial stress. In that kind of situation, you don't need that kind of stress because it doesn't only stress you financially, it stresses you mentally, it stresses you emotionally, and it can get physical. The other thing is that you try to eliminate debt as much as possible. So I've said earlier, you can't climb out of a hole when you're still digging deeper. All the research shows that we're more likely to spend when the money isn't really ours, credit. But we still end up having to pay the bill when we borrow, plus interest. So you need to set a goal of saving up for everything except the house, unless of course you want to do that too. This may sound hard for a lot of people, but we need to try living on less than we make. And it should seem obvious, but the data shows people aren't doing it. Having money left over at the end of the month is what allows you to save and invest for the future. It was a New York Times bestselling author and professor, Tom Stanley, said that the number one reason for people not being able to make financial progress was having a mortgage payment that was way too big. And Dave Ramsey recommends 25% to 35% of your net household income going to housing expenses. So live on less than you make. Live on less. The thing about it, people spend because of greed. See it that I wanted. I've had the same issue. I like to look good. So the latest shoe, the latest clothing, whatever I see, I just have to have it. And I found myself just spending online like that. And I had to get a grip of it because it would have reached a stage like drought. And so the thing about it, I have an understanding of why people tend to want more and they live above their means. Let's try living on less than we need. Another point is track your work, not your income. Track net work, not your income. And this practice is recommended by nearly every good financial guide that I have found. It's the best way to look at your financial progress over time. And you can just search online to find out how to calculate your net worth. Thank you.
All right. Um, well, I want to ask others to chime in based on what Frank would have said, but I also want to ask Paul to remind us of the face of financial instruments because I know he can look at multiple different financial tools, real estate, capital, trucking, and capital. I want you to just walk us through some of that so our audience can get a broader view in terms of what the face of money looks like. So I'm going to start with you, Paul, and then I'm going to open up back for Peter and Shivani to chime in to what Frank would have said.
Okay. Thank you, Gary. Financial instruments is related to business financing. Well, as you say, you have debt and you have equity. If you take equity, if you take investment money, you're giving up ownership and control of your company. So debt is better. Depends on the deal structure. There are many times you can only accept equity for your project. There are also many times where you can maximize low cost debt, minimize equity, minimize high cost equity, and that allows you to raise all the capital that you need for your business. That's called smart structuring, and you main you retain ownership and control of your business. Okay, what is debt? Well, it is backed by an asset, so that if you don't pay the monthly obligation, the lender can come get that collateral and resell it. So debt is always backed by an asset. Well, let me walk that back. It's not always. There are things you can get investment money from investors, subordinate debt. If you're maxed out at your bank, but you're a growing company and you don't think you can borrow anymore to grow, there's something called subordinate debt. We can help you get that. So there's a lot of faces to money. There's a lot of angles on this. It can be very simple, or it can be, when it's complicated, it's really still not complicated if you are an expert or if you are hired experts to do the job for you. So let's talk about a little bit of debt. Equipment financing, equipment leasing. You get the piece of equipment you need for your business so that you can grow it, make more profit, and you need equipment to produce products or provide services. Real estate financing, where your business is located. Okay, you got the option to lease it. You could do that, but who's getting wealthy? The person you're leasing it from. They're gaining the equity, they're gaining that monthly cash flow. If you own a business, you should really want to own the real estate, which is debt. You can take on debt and own real estate. The other programs that we offer really aren't debt. Factoring is not debt. You sell your accounts receivable for a discount. That's not debt, but it's cash flow. Okay. So one thing that I want to tie to this is I watched a video yesterday, and gangs exist due to lack of financial opportunity. They don't have an uncle or an older family member or parents who can give them $3,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 to go start a business. Okay, so what do they get? They get passed down. Okay, here's what you do. You join the gang. We're going to sell some drugs. We're going to go do this. Okay. Economic opportunity and economic knowledge, financial information is passed down through the generations. What if instead of what if everybody had the opportunity to have access to money to start a business? They don't have to go to a life of crime, right? You can go to a life of business. And there's so many people who've said, if I had this knowledge when I was younger and I was, I'm a kingpin managing a drug trade, but I could have managed a real estate empire or a restaurant or a chain of restaurants that they owned if they had the knowledge and a little bit of financial backing. So I believe that we all owe it to ourselves, of course, our families, and specifically our kids, to be able to provide them opportunities to do what they want to do. If your kid graduates from college, and my youngest daughter did just graduate, she took a job with United Healthcare. She's 22. Her starting salary is $47,000. Yesterday we were talking, and she says she's going to save, save, save. I let it go because I'm going to give her some time to do that. But I'm also going to let her know, if you just save your entire, I was teasing her. I said, okay, you're going to save, save, save. You're going to be that old lady with cash under the mattress and a bunch of cats. Really, she's not. I'm just joking. I was teasing her, of course. But if you're going to just save all your life, that's not going to get you into the big leagues. If you want to go into the big leagues, and what are the big leagues? I don't know. The big leagues are owning a business, owning a restaurant, owning 2 or 3 restaurants, owning 30 rentals. You won't save your way to owning 30 rentals ever, 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 unless you make $1 million a year on a salary. You could do it then. You could do it first year. You could buy $30,000 houses for $900,000. But short of that, there's no way you're going to own 30 rentals by saving your way to it. So that information, access to information through your family, through mentors, what do you do with this chunk of money? You leverage it. You take X amount as your down payment on your real estate financing, and you leverage the money, and you build great wealth. A lot of it. You can build so much cash flow and so much excess cash if you do it the right way.
Great. All right, thanks for that share. And Paul, I just want to back give some additional support to what you would have said. And Frank, you mentioned a very powerful name. And remember how I'm starting a powerful name. You mentioned Dave Ramsey. And I've listened to his model. He's the kind of person that's going to tell you to stay away from debt. Whether you know it or not, he's going to tell you to stay away from debt. And he's the one that's going to tell you to save your way to home ownership and save your way to financial, independence. Now, let me say what I have tremendous respect for Dave Ramsey, but I don't fully agree with his method. And I do believe as we talk about debt, we need to look at it also in terms of personal debt and corporate debt. I can't recall here him talking about corporate debt because perhaps we have 99.9% of businesses that are started that they are taking debt. Yes, we see tremendous are successful, but we see many fail, and there are reasons why they're going to fail. I'm not going to go into it really. But what I want to conclude by saying is that I love this platform, the competitive edge, because this community is built out not only to give information to our audience, all right, we are here also to provide the support, all right, the support to ensure that the community, they're able to access capital, along with accessing capital, whether it be debt, equity, credit, factoring, whatever that is. We're going to work with you to help you to understand how to leverage the capital in a smart way so it doesn't become a liability. And to leverage the capital, you need to have data. You need to collect data. You need to analyze data. You need to apply data in the right way, as Paul was saying. And then you need to understand how to mitigate data because data shift. And last but not least, it's important for you to understand the mitigation process. So on our platform, I'm happy to say this. I believe that, this is a very unique platform of learning where you can learn all that you need to know about financial instrument, but you can also access it. You can also learn how to leverage and how to mitigate it. So that's just a little bit that I want to leave here for now. And I'm going to open up because Frank did mention a lot. So we're going to be wrapping up, looking at some of what Frank would have said. And I'm going to now start with Shivani and Peter, and then I'm going to come back to Paul to chime into that. And then Frank, you will also have your say.
So things that I'm taking from the conversation and how project management can really, really assist us. Something all of you all were saying that you need to leverage and then you need to mitigate. So the project management framework or cycle, we will say, your process, collection of your data, as what you spoke about, Gary. Do you
Yeah.
understand how to collect your data? Are you doing proper data analytics? Right, a very, very important aspect. Because if you don't have that, all of this is just all over the place, and you'll be very chaotic. So out of chaos is always structure, right? And it's how you develop that concept. Out of chaos, there is structure. Organized chaos, I call it. Um, so you need to understand data management. How do you collect your data? And then you are leveraging, as what you said, financial instruments, and then a very, very big part for me would be that mitigation, data mitigation, not only data mitigation, but how do you respond to risk, your risk assessment? Because yes, you may get the money, right? And you have your assets, but somewhere down the line, you did not do your risk assessment properly again. You did not monitor. All of this is going to fail, right? All of this is going to fail. So it's a continuous process for yourself. So yes, you are using the project management thinking and mindset to move you from data to leverage and getting the assets and everything like that, and building equity and building, your real estate and your empire, as we say. But what about this risk assessment? It should be done throughout. Don't only do it in the beginning and say, oh yeah, great, things are great. But especially if you own assets after a period of time and you keep owning more and more, we need to assess what we have and probably change up the plan a little more. So the plan that I originally had will not remain the same way. So things are not static. And as we say in project management, it's dynamic. Things change, things evolve. So your original process, which is analytics, move into leverage, move into acquiring wealth and growing your empire, always remember, hey, stick a pin in it and let's get back to the risk assessment. Let's get back to that and see how we could even grow and how we could even scale up. So those are my points that I'm getting ready from the conversation, and how project management can really, really, really assist us. Another closing point for me really would be the training aspect, because you don't know what you don't know. As I always say, you don't know what you don't know. You got to learn it. And sometimes you need to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Learn, unlearn, and relearn a lot of times. So I just wanted to share a closing point here with training, and it's really like what everybody was saying here. Frank was also talking about it a lot, that you need to be trained. So you have your own master plan, like Paul will say, your own personal master plan for training and development, which is one, close the knowledge gap. You need to find ways to close your knowledge gap. There may be a knowledge gap. How do you close it? So for instance, for me, I found this aspect, which is growing wealth. I needed to close my knowledge gap for that. And I'm still learning a lot for that, but I think I'm improving so much because I have prepared my inventory. What do I know in terms of my learnings? And that's what I'm trying to develop. Because I want to grow my empire, like what you're talking about, Paul, right? So close the knowledge gap, drive the standards, because training must be based on some particular standard. If you learn in financial, it must be based on some standards, and build power skills. So this is how my closing points will really be for training and development and learning something, because this is all about learning. You need to know what is missing, close the knowledge gap, look at standards for doing this. What are the standards that you're going to follow? And very, very important, build these power skills. So that's how I'll close off. Thanks, Gary.
All right. Thanks for that share, Shivani. And as time progresses, I know that a lot that we're seeing here, to many persons, may not be as clear as you want it to be clear. And I know this, why? Because, like, for example, when we talk about data, I know the average person is saying, can we put a face to data? But we're talking about data collection, data analytics, data leverage, and data mitigation. If you want to be successful in anything that you're doing, whether it's starting and scaling a business, taking it IPO, or positioning yourself to be successful in any area, in any area of life, you need data. As time progresses, we will do specific programs that's going to deal with data. I encourage you to follow us, follow me, because in another couple of days I will be doing daily updates on uploads on some of these specific areas. I'm going to come now to Peter to chime in on what Frank would have said. Then I'm going to come back to Paul, and then I'm going to have Frank to wrap us up with today's program. Peter?
Yeah, it's what we're gonna say in a nutshell, because there's so much information that is being passed on here. You know, if somebody coming here for the first time, they might feel as if they're drinking water from a fire hydrant. The volume of information is
Yes,
massive.
Peter, I like your figurative. I love it. Go on, Peter.
So, what I would say to an individual coming on for the first time, do not go into business. And this is something that when I heard it the first time, I was shocked. But then when you think about the meaning of it, you realize that it makes sense. And I heard this from the late Miles Monroe. He said, "Do not go into business to make money. If you go into business to make money, more likely you are going to fail, because as we are discussing in this forum, um, 60% or 70% of the world, or maybe, no, I think maybe close to about 90% of the world don't know what money is. So if you're going into business to make something that you don't know how it works, you are about to fail. So the safest thing is that you go into business to solve a problem. Go into business to solve a problem. And Gary gave such a beautiful way how you can do that. Gary said earlier is that you become a supplier of recurring needs. So if you're going into business to solve a problem, you're going to now look at, and the world is now so full of problems. The world is a problem, you know. So look at the problem that you are best designed to solve. Look around your friends, your family, look around what is going on, and you will discover that you have skill sets that can attach to certain problems that you hear recurring all the time. And then you are going to decide, okay, so here is the steps you're going to do now. You're going to do your research and development. You're going to do some research and development to see how viable this solution that you are bringing to the marketplace, if it's really effective. And then if you find that what you are doing is effective, then you're going to start marketing it, you know, in a more structured way. Find out, and when we say marketing now, you're going to test it by giving it away, give a lot of it away to see how people use it, and what is the relationship between you and the people that you're giving it away to. If they are taking it and you're getting feedback on, you know, what you're doing, it is great, and you're getting people are excited about what you're doing, then test it with a low price to see if they will actually give you money for it. So now you're going into sales. So you're making a little bit of money. The idea is not just an idea anymore. It has practicality. Now you're developing sales. Now you want to have accounting. You got to have to actually, well, before you go to accounting, you want to now develop customer service. If somebody give you money for the solution that you have in the marketplace, now you're going to see how you can treat those peoples well and keep data. Always collect data. You know, treat them well, give them, you know, immaculate care. And then you want to go into customer retention. Once somebody give you money, make sure that you have something, another service, something, an upsell, something that is going to always bring them back to do more, give you more money. And by the time you get there, you're going to realize that you need to keep tracking of those monies that are coming in, you know, your supplies chain, what you're paying for it, you know, everything that goes around with your little mission program or your big mission program, money making process, that in solving the problem that you are take into the marketplace. You're going to need proper accounting. But by the time you get there, and if you get to that point successfully, you're going to realize that you can now go into the big game. You can now go into mass production. And to go into mass production, now you're going to need to hire some staff. You're going to need to hire some technology. You're going to need some people like Chivonnet to help you with project management to manage that process. You're going to now need somebody like Paul, because if you're going to go into mass production now, you're going to need a greater amount of money. You're going to need somebody like Gary, who is going to help you to mitigate and manage the debt that you're going to. So that simple structure is going to boil down to one thing, one question. And if you answer this one question now, in my world, the world of master planning, personal life master planning, for you to solve that problem and really have impact, there's one question that you can answer is, what is your purpose? What is your purpose? Because every individual was sent into the world to solve a problem. And the reason why so much problem is in the world is because most people do not know what the problems they were sent into the world is. So today, starting right today, with all what I said a while ago, one thing that can give foundation to all of that is to ask yourself that question: what is my purpose? And your purpose can be defined with now two questions. Look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself that question: who are you? And then you go into a quiet corner and you sit yourself by yourself and you says, who am I? And if you do those three things, next year this time, I would want to meet you, because you'll be a totally different person. And that's my bit for now.
All right. Thanks for that share, Peter. I'm going to now come to Paul. Peter, you did drop some gems there. Love it, love it. Paul, all to you, my friend. We can chime into what Frank might have said earlier on.
Okay. Thank you, Gary. I'm going to tie this into what everybody said throughout this program, because it's all outstanding and very important information. There's no success without project management and a master plan. Project management, when you hear that term, you're thinking massive project, building skyscrapers. Project management is as simple as getting up in the day and planning your day. That's a small scale version of it, and everything in between. So there's no success without project management, and there's no success without a master plan. A master plan and project management are tied together. Now, I love what Shivani said, close the knowledge gap. I like that. You have to close the knowledge gap. And all these things do they sound complicated? I don't think so. Close the knowledge gap. I'm afraid. How do I do that? You just do it. You do it. You get up out of bed, you walk to where you got to go, you study what you got to study, you take it in. Or you call somebody to have them explain it to you in detail. And if you don't get it the first time, do it again, because people will do that for you. Gain the knowledge and implement it. Yeah. And don't be mad at money. And don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of it, because it's nothing. It's a piece of paper with a dead president on it. That's it. That's all it is. It's a tool.
It's a tool.
That's all. Yeah. It's like your car. You use your car to go from point A to point B. Well, that's what you use money to do, to go from point A to point B. Okay. Is this a complicated subject? No. Frank makes it very simple. And it is very simple. It's live within your budget. Spend less. Look at the federal government of the United States of America.
Oh, my God.
How can we be 30 way plus trillion dollars in debt and still spend money and still give it away? What if all of us ran our household like that? We would not be eating. Our kids wouldn't have clothes because we're giving it away. And we don't have it to give away anyway. So I guess we're going out robbing. Yeah, we are going out robbing people. We're taking from the taxpayers and robbing.
I can print it. I can print it,
Yes.
so I can do it.
So, is this a complicated subject? No, it's not. Frank put it very clearly. Live within your budget, spend less than you make, and then that excess money that you have, learn to be smart with it and invest it. Don't be afraid to invest it. Don't hold on to money so tightly as if you're never going to see any more again. Because if you have that attitude, you will never see any
Yeah.
more. It's
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it. Make a plan, make a master plan, manage your project, go get the resources to fulfill that project and pull it off. Simple, not hard.
All right. Thanks for that share, um, Paul.
Mhm.
There's a couple of things that I want to say that Frank also would have hinted on. I do believe that he made a very valid point when he spoke about the S&P 500 and the possibility that exists in investing in the S&P 500. And I want to also say something else. And what I've recognized is that the majority of the people in the world do not fully understand how to invest and how to leverage their capital into smart income producing assets, safe income producing assets. And I just want to add a few more platforms to what Frank would have pointed out. He pointed out the S&P 500, but we have stocks and bonds, we have mutual funds, we have ETF, we have Vanguard Index, we have hedge funds, we have REIT, we have investment, real estate investment portfolios. There's a whole lot of these things, but I'm not saying to you to go and invest. I'm saying to you that there's right and wrong in how you go about doing investing. And on this platform, we will definitely help you to understand that. There's a concept that we call the back end analytics and the front end analytics. What we see happens a lot of persons going to do investment, they're making front end analytics, which is front loaded with a lot of emotion. Somebody make money by doing this, and I think that I should invest in this to make money also. That's not the way you make investment. Perhaps we can call that a gamble. The way you make solid investment is through the back end analytics. You want to take the time to understand the history of the history of the company paying dividend yields consistently year over year. You want to understand the team dynamics that is managing the operation. You want to understand the cash flow projection and if they have the leadership in place. Frank will tell you about leadership to drive the cash flow and potential of that company. So there's a whole lot for us to get into, but we can't do it on one program over a period of time. We're going to do this. But I want to open up back now to Frank to give us your wrap up thoughts. Perhaps you can give us some more solutions to the face of money and how to manage and make and manage money. All to you, my friend.
All right, thanks, Gary. I wanted to just complete with three others of the action plan that you can have. One of the things,
Okay.
the seventh one is save for retirement and start early. Data shows people aren't planning well or starting early enough. One of the things you don't want to do is burden your children by making them your retirement plan. Children got a life of their own. They need to live their life. So you need to make a
Peter,
plan.
that's you, right? That's your words, Peter.
Make a plan to retire with dignity. You want to retire with dignity. You don't want no issues going to children to ask for money. It's the last thing I want to do. Teach your kids how to handle money early in life. I think it was Peter who spoke on that earlier. What he does for his children. See, we don't let culture or advertising teach your children about money. It's a skill that can help them avoid huge stress and pain in their lives. And the best way to teach them is to model the behavior yourself. More is caught than taught. And the most common way we learn about money is by watching our parents, what our parents did. And I didn't have a good example because I knew my grandmother wouldn't get enough pension. There's nothing much she could have said. The final one I want to say is generosity is a great way to break the habit of overspending.
Wow.
When you give some away at the beginning of the month, you aren't as tempted to spend more yourself. And this is where leadership comes into play, when we need to show care, attention, empathy to others who may be in greater need. So be generous. And there are other things that you can get into, but time doesn't permit me. But what I'm saying, at the end of the day, if you follow these simple plan rules, um, you'll see yourself being able to better manage your finances. I remember when I wanted to buy my car, I did not want to have the problem of having the car as on the negative side of the balance sheet. I wanted the car to be an asset. How can the car be an asset? So the car had to pay for itself. I made sure that it went on the road, and the kind of car I bought is one that could have fetched some luggage. People coming from the airport and want their suitcases. That's a car that's a quarter wagon. And so that vehicle is not a liability. It's an asset because it's bringing money. It's bringing money for you. It's bringing money to pay the debt that you borrowed. And nothing is wrong in having debt, but at the same time, how do you manage the debt is important. Thank you.
All right, thanks for that share, Frank. And I love that you purchased the car not as a liability but as an asset, and you're getting profit. That's why I'm seeing you changing your tires so frequently. That means the profit is being spent. I like that, my friend. Beautiful share, beautiful share. All right, I want to thank Frank. He's always a great teacher. My wife would always say, I can listen to Frank all the time. I can listen to Frank. I can just relax and listen to Frank. She always says that. I also want to thank, Shivani. A great mind. Her great smile always illuminates, our community. Yes, a great mind and project practitioner, and I also want to thank Peter for being here today. Peter is the guy that say you need a master plan, for life. If you don't have that master plan, you ain't living yet. And also I want to thank Paul, a great mind when it comes to finance, and his heart is with helping people across the world. All right. And in America, he's going to help you in 50 states. In any state that you're in, you need access to capital. I encourage you to reach out to the community. We're going to do everything that we can do to ensure that you get access to capital. And Paul is one of those persons that will leave no stone unturned to ensure that you get the capital. So, with that being said, I want to thank the audience who are viewing us from across the world for being here today. Today, we look at the face of money. And I really trust that you enjoyed the conversation and you were able to take away a lot of nuggets that was dropped here today on the competitive edge. So with that being said, we'll do this again tomorrow. And tomorrow we're going to be coming with another exciting topic. So do call a friend, tell a friend that we're going to be here. Do like and subscribe so you will be notified from the time that we go live. So with that, do enjoy the rest of your day and see you tomorrow.